Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for tonight's edition of Wave Extra here in the Wave Now studio. I'm Jose Sosaya. Appreciate you connecting with us through your Wave Now app if you're doing so through your smart TV or all our social media channels. As we're just breaking down some of those big stories we've spent diving into, looking at the information, updates, details on this Wednesday. In fact, some of it, of course, breaking news that can happen anytime, and some of these things we're going to keep working to share what we know with you as we're finding things out. I want to point you toward a couple of items, some stories that really picked up some steam. Folks checking in the headlines and wanted to find out what was going on through, of course, our free-to-download app and our website, wave3.com. And that's where I want to point you first to a couple of those stories. We're reaching out to, in this case, paramedics or police and prosecutors, see what more they can tell us at each given point. So I want to point you out is the headline in this story, and we've been reaching out to different paramedic teams. We found out sometime this afternoon a toddler was rushed to Norton Children's Hospital. The report was it was a near drowning, and so you can just see based on what we know so far, it happened around the 3400 block of Ripple Creek. So earlier this afternoon at around 2:15, LMPD 7th Division helped the team of EMS experts, professionals there, making sure the child could get to Norton Children's. Apparently it was a 3-year-old girl, no foul play suspected. As we get any sort of update on the girl's condition, we'll of course make sure to share that with you. And moving on to another story that gained some interest with you, our audience online, because the details, of course, involved with the victim are gruesome, and they're going to stand out to you. It's the fact 2 men now indicted in connection to this murder, and it's the murder of a victim, a man who was found wrapped in duct tape, and this just was left on a street corner for police to discover as they were investigating. And so you see LMPD now saying there's an indictment for this murder that happened in October of 2024 back in the Russell neighborhood. Maybe this is something you remember when we first broke the news back then in October. The victim, unfortunately, Mitchell Jackson, his body found wrapped in duct tape at the corner of 18th and Muhammad Ali Boulevard. Around 5 days later, Chadwick Fleming was arrested, charged only with tampering with physical evidence. But apparently LMPD and prosecutors perhaps building a stronger case that Fleming is being charged with murder in connection to Jackson's death. And a second suspect, Devon Collins, also arrested, indicted for tampering with physical evidence and abuse of a corpse. So the key date to focus in on will be next Monday, July 28th, when both of these men are scheduled to appear in court. So that will be something we will follow quite closely here as part of the Wave News reporting and news gathering team. So looking ahead to a story, if you might remember, a familiar deja vu, let's call it, about the headaches, the traffic, unfortunately just a lot of the crashes and domino effects, trying to get past Hospital Curve coming into downtown, whether you're heading north or south on the stretch of I-65. And we told you the weather had delayed the initial calendar date for road crews to go out there, shut it down for the weekend, and do the maintenance work that they needed to do. Well, it turns out, barring anything surprising, which we've had Ryan Hoke earlier this evening let us know, it's just going to be hot and humid, but not so much in the way of the rain that would prevent this kind of work. All this to say, this weekend, closures on Hospital Curve on I-65, they are set to begin in earnest Friday night at 8. And we're going to show you some images reminding you of, perhaps a story that's told and reported and just happens all too often. But again, road closures set to begin last week, postponed because of the heavy rain. So from 8 p.m. Friday, continuing through 5 a.m. Monday. So this coming Monday, crews are going to be there to make some permanent repairs to the expansion joints. These have required a lot of frequent fixes, and they're also hoping to prevent potholes that we know resurface recurringly on the stretch of I-65, and that's going to require all that closure of the space southbound. So once the interstate opens on Monday, I-65 south is going to be open, but just open to one lane. So reduced to a lot of the flow you're going to be able to get on this corridor, and that's going to stick around through Wednesday. As far as additional lane closures, especially for I-65 north traffic, when that time comes to do the same fixes, that's going to be scheduled at a later date, and it is still unclear how long the project is going to last. And of course, once we get back in earnest from Friday night, heading into Monday, seeing what that progress looks like, at least in that Monday through Wednesday gap where the traffic is going to be much more funneled in through that lane, we'll be certainly hoping everyone stays safe, patient as you're getting where you need to go. But should anything happen, we'll have our cameras able to check in on what's going on. Now, I want to point you to a story we had our David Mattingly look into today, and it's sort of an investigation into a scheme police are calling that involved a lot of tools, a lot of gadgets, a lot of planning before time, but it also involves what officers and experts might call a vulnerable piece of machinery. Maybe you've been tempted, you don't have the cash you need to buy something at the given moment, and at a gas station, it would involve the ATM that is right there. It may not be your bank's ATM, but it's just something as an option if you wanted that cash. Well, an arrest recently by LMPD is revealing this alleged card skimmer was targeting customers of some of these ATMs at gas stations. In fact, these devices were installed on machines to steal their accounts, their account numbers. David found out it's, in fact, quite a new level of sophistication in the sense that in a matter of days, you could intercept this account information of multiple victims. Police telling us tonight this is not unusual, unfortunately, but it is different to the level of technology. And as David also put it, it gives quite a new meaning to the term quick cash.
It was a scheme designed to covertly intercept card information on victims' debit cards. In this case, the thief installed a PIN pad overlay to record PIN numbers as they were typed into the machine, and a deep insert skimmer into the card reader to pull information from the magnetic strip. But on one machine, the alleged thief also installed what is described as a pinhole camera device that recorded customers typing in their PIN numbers. The camera was capable of recording audio and video, eavesdropping on the customer's private conversations. The arrest in this case is followed by words of caution.
I would advise against using a non-banking institution ATM. FICO reports that about 60% of the fraud that we see come from non-banking institution ATMs.
Overlays, deep inserts, and tiny cameras escaped notice by employees and customers for days. Being vigilant demands a higher level of awareness.
If you're at an ATM machine and the buttons are kind of hard to push or something to that might be a sign that might be an overlay over the top of it. Or if something just seems suspicious, if the card's going in a little bit different or something to that nature.
Of the two machines compromised, one was at a Circle K on South 3rd Street. The other was at a Thornton's on Cane Run Road. Attempts to contact the companies have not been successful.
So our thanks to David Mattingly for breaking all of that down. As for the suspect that police arrested, his name is Luciano Giovanni, and we're told he's from Albuquerque, New Mexico, with a Romanian passport, and he was apparently living at a local Airbnb, so an Airbnb here in Wave Country, and that's where police say they also, when they were doing the investigation, the search warrant there, they found hundreds of re-encoded gift cards and debit cards, plus a large amount of cash, as they will build their investigation for a date whenever Giovanni will appear in court to face these charges. We're hoping to, of course, have a camera or someone there to follow up on this case as it moves forward. We're going to take a quick break here on Wave Extra. Back after the break with much more of today's headlines, not just the big local stories, but also stories garnering a lot of national attention as well, and some breaking updates that we've gotten in over the last couple hours. So hope you stick with us as we take a very small break right here on Wave Extra. All right, everyone, welcome back to Wave Extra 816. Appreciate you sticking around with us and hope you're staying cool, by the way. We've been referring back when I was talking to Ryan Hoke earlier in the Wave studio, the Wave News studio, just wanted to stay inside and just the huge contrast between, here we are wearing our work clothes, but you step outside, you feel the tide, you feel it's that air you can wear, as Ryan likes to call it, just the humidity. So the storm tracking team, of course, if you stick around, always have their information on all of our different channels. You can connect with us on Wave News at 11. We're going to break down just how much warmer it's going to get, chances for rain, maybe when we'll get a break to finally get into a high in the mid-80s. We'll see how soon we get to that. So more news today. This was something that our Mark Stevens was looking into because he really is quite familiar, comfortable with this material. The ongoing saga of the Jamie Knoll case with New Chapel EMS. Of course, now the plea deals that some members of his family have taken for their involvement. And just in today, again, after former Clark County Sheriff Knoll and his family had stolen all those millions of dollars from New Chapel EMS, the company had lost its 911 contract, so perhaps another layer setback for the entity. The nonprofit ambulance service now confirming today they have filed for bankruptcy. And so we have some more details to share with you on what they've been able to tell us. So the company's lawyers say the decision is directly the result of Knoll mismanaging the funds. New Chapel EMS says the courts have also actually blocked it as an entity from selling assets to try and recoup some of that money. Judges have been sorting out, of course, all these crimes and convictions. But New Chapel says the fact that this is blocked has also prevented them from A, paying their loans, or B, other financial obligations. The bankruptcy filings that we've been able to get a good look at say New Chapel is $1.5 million in debt, and at the same time, they're only making around between $10,000 to $15,000 a week. A reminder, Jamie Knoll is currently serving 12 years in prison. He had pleaded guilty to spending those millions of dollars on travel, gifts, cars, other personal expenses. We have, of course, followed up on some other subsequent convictions. Knoll's wife, oldest daughter have also taken plea deals as it relates to that case as well. Some more stories and headlines for you. This one will be something parents can understand. Just want to make sure a new school in particular is ready for the time classes are back in session. This is a brand new school in southern Indiana working up to clean up a little mess. It's water from recent heavy rain that got into their building. Storms dropped around 6.5 inches of water on top of Charlestown Elementary School. School leaders tell us that was just too much for their roof drain to hold on to. So now a contractor and engineer group are trying to fix the problem. They say the school will still be ready for the first day of classes. It's hard to believe that we're talking about first day of classes for so many districts already, but July winding down, we're getting much closer to August, something we will certainly keep an eye on. Now, if you joined us last night on Wave News at 11, I want to shout out, of course, our reporting team, our reporter Logan Perrone on this issue because it's been so important, urgent for neighbors driving and living in this part of Louisville. Just wanted to have some safe streets for cars that they say just speed by way too fast. It just creates a not ideal situation for anyone kind of moving no matter what time of day it is. Problems have been persisting on this particular stretch, and we have been documenting that it's seen well over its fair share of crashes. In fact, multiple cars were damaged in this latest wreck early Sunday. So it was from Saturday heading into very early Sunday on West Hill Street. It's a corridor we've been keeping tabs on for months. Again, our Logan Perrone keeping tabs on what's going on there. Families having to talk frustrated about yet another crash, and it feels like nothing is happening. Luckily, no one was hurt, and the driver of the pickup truck did hit 2 vehicles, was arrested. But we checked back in with community leaders to say the city, has not done anything substantive to fix the issue. This is what Logan found out.
There you go.
Ron Hargrove is with the Algonquin Park Hill Neighborhood Association, and the guy who gets the call when this happens.
Some of the officers I talked to say, yeah, you all need 4-way stops here.
Hargrove says West Hill Street has a glaring problem, and if you blink, you might miss it. People going way too fast. The intersection I'm on is McCloskey and West Hill. He's been trying to make it a 4-way stop, as well as 17th and West Hill. He's been trying for more than a year now. hasn't heard anything from the city.
All we asking is for 2 measly 4-way stops in this area.
We asked Public Works for an update. Representatives tell us they do not plan to make changes to West Hill and 17th Streets, calling the side street stops appropriate. Public Works did confirm it is still evaluating West Hill and McCloskey, though Hargrove says they would know better if they listened to the community.
The neighbors are the study. They sit on the porches day by day and they look and they see, all the traffic flows and what goes on up and down this neighborhood.
LMPD has also seen it. On the half-mile stretch between 15th and Dixie Highway, not including the intersections, police have responded to more than 50 crashes in the last 5 years. 40 of those have caused property damage and resulted in 19 injuries, including one this spring involving one of their own officers. Hargrove hopes he doesn't have to see someone die before the city does something.
If that's what city government wants to see, then, I don't want it to happen.
Our Logan Perone reporting there. Metro Public Works, we did reach out, and they did tell us the traffic study was done to look at this issue, this crossroads in 2025. They didn't answer a question we submitted as to how much those 4 additional stop signs would cost. And as for Sunday's crash, LMPD's 2nd Division is investigating. Charges are going to be pending there. Whatever happens, if there's a needle to move in a sort of providing examples for there being stop signs, just sort of deterrence mechanisms for slower driving around that part of Louisville, will be something we'll follow up with, of course. We're going to take a quick break. Coming back with much more. We're going to focus on 2, very gruesome, awful stories. One with the national lens of the murders of the University of Idaho students, and today's sentencing, a very visceral, emotional, gripping victim impact statements from the families of the students who were killed. And now looking back at a case that happened not too long ago here in Kentucky, but where the family of the victims are afraid of what might happen next, but hopefully it might shed light on some cases that are still open. So we'll be right back with Wave Extra. Welcome back, everyone, to Wave Extra and all the different ways you're connecting with us tonight here in the Wave Now studio. A quick shout out to Andrew, who's joined us not too long ago, about 14 minutes ago. So good evening to Andrew there. More stories we want to just share with you if you haven't learned or been reading or been able to catch up on those updates. We're going to start with one that gained so much attention nationwide just by the sheer shock of the case and ultimately what led to the arrest of that eventual suspect. Well, today, a difficult, emotional is an understated word, but emotional day in an Idaho courtroom. Family members and friends of these 4 University of Idaho college students who were all, again, savagely stabbed to death. Those loved ones left behind are sharing their pain and anger face to face with the man who had confessed to these murders. So just feet away in that courtroom. And NBC's Jay Gray has the details and the visuals from inside the courtroom.
Because of him, 4 beautiful, genuine, compassionate people were taken from this world for no reason.
Raw emotion spilling out in a Boise courtroom. The roommates, friends, and family of Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin sharing the pain of overwhelming loss.
She was that fun, loving, high-spirited, beautiful person. And I no longer get to get my nails done with her, have lunch with her.
For others, the message is more direct.
You're not worth the time, the effort to be remembered.
Their loss fuels a seething anger.
I won't stand here and give you what you want. I won't offer you tears. Instead, I will call you what you are. Sociopath, psychopath, murderer.
A hatred at times bordering on rage.
I want to just be out in the woods with you just so I can teach you about loss and pain. I'm shaking because I want to reach out to you, but I hope you feel my energy, okay? Go to hell.
The confessed killer staring straight ahead, seemingly no emotion, no sign of remorse, only responding when offered the chance to speak.
I respectfully decline. Go.
Judge Steve Hippler calling the convicted murderer a faceless coward and evil.
In my view, the time has now come to end Mr. Kohberger's 15 minutes of fame.
Formally sentencing the now 30-year-old killer to spend the rest of his life in prison. Jay Gray, NBC News.
And to that end, after the judge had set that sentence of life in prison, it is without the possibility of parole. Also given a 10-year sentence on top of this life sentence for the murders for burglary and assessed $270,000 in fines for civil penalties. Kohberger apparently waived his right to appeal. Now, I want to point your attention to a story and an update you're only going to see on Wave News and Wave Extra, just because the details, if you remember the story from 17 years ago, it was a case we covered out in Breckenridge County that was actually so gruesome, police back then called it one of the worst cases and attacks they had ever seen, and that was back then. It ultimately led to a trial, a conviction for an attacker and rapist that we have now learned is soon going to be walking the streets after having served time. And family members of the victim from that awful attack are saying that the sentence was cut short, and they hope this at least brings attention to what they believe are some investigations that still need resolution. So Wave News anchor Brian Schlonsky has this update for you tonight.
Head down, slumped shoulders, and hands cuffed in front of him. A violent, convicted rapist and attempted murderer limps into Breckenridge County Court.
Very well, this is Collins, Kentucky versus Ernest Pine.
His name, Ernest Pine. He was convicted in 2009 and sentenced to 20 years in prison for a brutal sexual assault and attempted murder of his Hardinsburg neighbor, an attack so gruesome and disturbing that many of the details aren't suitable for air. Here's what neighbors of the victim told Wave News shortly after it happened in the summer of 2007.
Told me that he told her, "You're going to die tonight."
Thought I was in a movie or something.
Her throat was cut from here to here, and she had wounds across her chest and stomach in different areas.
Ahead of Pine's trial, a friend of the victim gave a signed statement to investigators about what she said happened on that day, writing that Pine cut her throat, raped, and sodomized her, the victim playing dead at one point so that Pine would leave, all while her infant granddaughter was in a nearby room.
It very heinous crime.
In court, the victim's husband, who we're referring to only as Sam, talked exclusively to Wave News. He tells us they thought this saga was over. Pine was sentenced to 20 years, but then the family learned he'll be let out early after just 17 years, they say for good behavior. A judge Wednesday telling Pine when he is released next month to have no contact with the family.
You're all asking that he has no contact with the victims, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
You understand that, sir? Yes, I do.
There's nothing we can do about it. It's the judicial system, and we live with that.
What the family can't live with, the eerie similarities of their case to a cold case from 1992 out of Elizabethtown, where Alina Sanchez Hawkins, a 29-year-old mother of two, was raped and killed. Here's what investigators said about those similarities when we asked about it years ago.
This did involve a rape, it did involve a murder, it did involve a knife with severe lacerations.
As of now, the Hawkins case is still unsolved, and while he's upset his wife's attacker is being let out early, Sam says he hopes this new attention on Pine will re-energize investigations into the Hawkins case. But 17 years later, seeing Pine for the first time since his wife's attack, Sam and his wife are left with the same burning question they were left with in 2007. Why?
He lived 2 houses down from us at Rough River Lake, and, there was no reasoning, no harsh words, nothing. All he and his wife ever did was walk their dogs, and we spoke. That was it.
So that update right there from Brian Schlonsky. Appreciate his reporting, sharing, and breaking down those details for us. Now, as for an exact date for Ernest Pine, apparently he's scheduled to be released August 19th, so in a little under a month. We did reach out to Kentucky State Police when it comes to the Hawkins case, and they tell us the case is still open. If anyone has tips, because they are actively investigating it, you can direct that information to KSP Post 4. So something, again, as I say all the time, because the story, at least in that open investigation, has not ended there. So something we'll certainly keep our eyes on. We're going to take another break right here on Wave Extra. Hope you stick around with us as we round out this evening, this July 23rd Wednesday. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. Coming up on 8:36 tonight on Wave Extra. Appreciate you sticking around to round down the evening. And don't worry, for any of those latest updates, of course, there's many ways you can get those. Downloading the app, coming to the website. I'm going to, of course, keep working through the night. We'll check in with any of those breaking headlines, updates on Wave News at 11. Yours truly will be there. So back to a conversation where, again, I understand we're not literally in August. We're still rounding out July, but when you just stare at that date on the calendar, that the school year is starting. Once you're an adult, of course, the year beyond those vacations and holidays, we take those summer breaks for granted, if that's not your career, of course, either with teachers. But as everyone's getting ready, JCPS, they still say they have around 100, so hundreds of open teacher positions that they would really like to fill before this next crop of kids comes back to classrooms, from the very babies, of course, to the seniors with one more year left to graduate. But they're all coming back to school August 7th. And they're really hoping a new program. It's been picking up a lot of steam, but it keeps tackling the issue of the shortage, trying to build up a pipeline of passionate, prepared, trained educators to ensure that future supply, future success. So WAVE News reporter Kirsten Foote decided to check in on the latest when it comes to the JCPS Teacher Apprenticeship Program. Let's take a look.
Teaching is something that I've been wanting to do for as long as I can remember.
Madeline Colville comes from a family with deep ties to education. Her mom is a teacher at JCPS.
She was in 2nd grade. They did a, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she wanted to be a teacher, and so we made a lanyard and we put her picture on it and we drew JCPS.
Colville may only be a junior in high school, but she's well on her way to getting that official JCPS teacher lanyard.
So it'll be 4 hours in total a week of interning.
You are now involved in the apprenticeship program with JCPS.
She's part of JCPS's first ever teacher apprenticeship program.
Yes, ma'am.
Putting her and 8 other rising juniors on the fast track to becoming educators.
I'll be working in the field as a teacher whenever I'm 20, yeah.
Colville and the other rising high school juniors will be working in the district as instructional assistants. They'll be getting hands-on experience in classrooms, college credit, and their tuition will be covered. She'll have her associate's degree by the time she graduates from Fairdale High School next year, then head to U of L to finish her last 2 years of school. For Colville, that means she could reach her dream of becoming a teacher that much easier.
Finding the money for college was always a fun little talk about in our house. I had no idea what I was going to do.
The new program also helps the district address the effects of a teacher shortage, something that's also been seen nationwide. District leaders say it's investing in their future.
And when they get credentialed, they'll be teachers in our district, filling some of the vacancies that we have right now.
It still seems too good to be true. She worked hard to deserve it, so we're proud of her.
Reporting in Louisville, Kirsten Foote, WAVE News.
And we're certainly wishing this new class of soon-to-be apprentices and future educators all the best. Again, hard to believe the school year is coming up, but something, again, we will follow quite closely as hopefully everything goes as smooth as it can be. If things go wrong, hopefully things get solved eventually and safely, but something, again, to keep in context as we move through the summer. And so in the context of having educators for kids with JCPS, having educators that are there for kids in whatever school district they are, so that's one kind of support. The other is an issue for, unfortunately, many families of food insecurity. But we're talking about a story we've learned, it's actually in a post-high school environment. It can make the difference for a college student, for example, maybe still wanting to push through to get their degree, or if they're just that insecure, it might force them to drop out to just make ends meet. And so today we learned Kroger donated around $30,000 to Simmons College here in town so that at least some students in a precarious situation there don't have to be forced to make that really difficult choice. WAVE News reporter Marissa Burke is explaining, as she found out, that this is really a small piece of what the school is calling a larger mission and hoping others are able to join in.
Volunteers from Kroger started their day stocking different shelves.
Gatorade, popcorn, got Prego,
oatmeal.
The list goes on for what's available to Simmons College students in their food pantry. Kroger supports 9 different HBCUs as part of their Zero Hunger, Zero Waste mission.
The support of Kroger's matters to our students and to this community whose donations show why it's important to uplift Louisville's HBCU.
Since 2019, Kroger has invested tens of thousands of dollars into Simmons College's food pantry. The goal is preventing students from having to choose between food and their future. On Wednesday, they continued that work, presenting a $30,000 check, making sure the food pantry is ready for the fall. Close to 30% of Simmons College students use this pantry each year.
Don't let your ego stop you from getting what you need, and keep a humble mindset when you come to college, because you're in a new area, a new system of how things work. You're away from your family, your parents. So I say just keep your ego out of the way.
To some, the pantry is more than a room filled with food. It's a result of what can happen when two organizations put students first. Marissa Burke, Wave News.
All right, thanks to Marissa there. One more thing before we go. Just want to show you our view from inside the 3rd annual Park Hill Field Day. This is thanks in part, Louisville Metro Housing Authority had put this on. The celebration was moved inside, though. Normally, you'd want to enjoy the summer bearable heat. This time, it was just a little too much, so wanted to give people a break from the hot summer sun. But neighbors did come together to celebrate the Park Hill neighborhood. Games, food, there was even a petting zoo involved in some section there inside. And while parents, neighbors, families were also able to connect with access to some resources that they need and building those relationships with local partners.
Right now, we understand that the community needs to be redeveloped. So this is phase 1 of community outreach and asking neighbors and residents what their vision is, because they're the ones who live here. They're the ones who call this place home.
Now, we learned LMHA first announced plans to redevelop Parkway Place last fall. And as of right now, we're told they're still looking for a firm to help them start up that project. And we'll see what progress will look like for them in the short-term future. All right, everyone, as a reminder for the latest, I always like to remind you that we have quite a bit of things you can always catch up on. It's news and stories, updates that affect, our community right here. So again, a reminder, you can go to wave3.com, click the news button, and all the different sections. It's going to have even the forecast from the storm tracking team. It's an option there. Again, the library we have of the entire trials for all of the men who were eventually convicted in the Crystal Rogers disappearance, but all the different kinds of sections, the latest breaking news, big stories, all there on the homepage for you on wave3.com. That is going to do it for us tonight as we approach 8:44. I'm Jose Sosaya. Always appreciate you joining us, whether that's through your smart TVs, through the Wave Now app, or Facebook, Twitch, X, YouTube. Always appreciate spending your time during these evenings as we round out the remainder of the day, and we will be back on Wave News at 11 for any of that information and those stories that matter to you. Appreciate your time, folks. We'll see you tomorrow.